In 2000, Toys R Us was the largest toy retailer on the planet. 900 stores, $11 billion in annual revenue. A brand so dominant that an entire generation of children knew its jingle by heart before they knew their multiplication tables. By 2017, it was gone. Not slowly, not gracefully. It collapsed, almost overnight, leaving 33,000 people unemployed and thousands of children standing outside of locked doors the week before Christmas. And here's what almost no one talks about. Amazon didn't kill Toys R Us. Toys R Us handed Amazon the weapon and asked them to use it. To understand how Toys R Us died, you have to understand what it was. Charles Lazarus founded the company in 1948, not as a toy store, as a baby furniture shop in Washington, D.C. But Lazarus noticed something. Parents who bought cribs came back. They came back for toys, then for more toys. He pivoted, and he never looked back. By the 1980s, Toys R Us had pioneered what we now call the category killer model, a massive big box store dedicated entirely to one thing. No grocery departments, no clothing, just toys. Thousands of them. It worked so well that Walmart and Kmart couldn't compete. They didn't have the selection. They didn't have the expertise. They didn't have the space. At its peak in the mid-1990s, Toys R Us controlled 25% of all toy sales in America. 1 in $4 spent on toys in the United States went through a Toys R Us register. That is not a retail chain. That is a monopoly dressed in a giraffe costume. And then, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. It's the year 2000. The internet is new, e-commerce is new, and everyone, including Toys R Us, is trying to figure out how to compete online. Toys R Us had launched their own website, toysrus.com, in 1998. The Christmas rush of 1999 nearly broke them. Orders weren't fulfilled on time. Toys were promised and didn't arrive. The Federal Trade Commission fined them $350,000 for deceptive practices. They needed a solution, fast. And Amazon had one. In 2000, Toys R Us struck a deal with Amazon, a company that at the time was still primarily a bookseller trying to expand. The agreement seemed, on paper, like a masterstroke. Toys R Us would pay Amazon to handle their online sales infrastructure. Amazon would host Toys R Us products on the Amazon platform. Toys R Us would be the exclusive toy seller on Amazon.com. Exclusive. That word. In exchange for this exclusivity arrangement, Toys R Us agreed to pay Amazon approximately $50 million per year, plus a percentage of each sale. They signed the deal. They went home satisfied. And then Amazon did what Amazon always does. It violated the agreement. Within a year, Amazon had quietly allowed dozens of third-party toy sellers onto the platform, directly competing with Toys R Us. The exclusive deal turned out to mean very little in practice. Toys R Us sued Amazon in 2004. They won. The court sided with Toys R Us and terminated the agreement. But here's the problem, and this is the part that ends empires. Toys R Us had spent 4 years not building their own e-commerce infrastructure. While Amazon was selling their products for them, Toys R Us had done nothing. No proprietary platform, no logistics network, no digital supply chain, nothing. They had outsourced their future to a competitor, and when the deal died, they were 4 years behind. In an industry where 4 years is a generation, by 2005, Walmart and Target had poured resources into their toy departments. They could afford to sell toys at a loss, a practice called loss leading, because they made their money elsewhere, on groceries, on clothing, on electronics. Toys R Us couldn't do that. Toys were their entire business model. So when Walmart dropped toy prices to attract shoppers, Toys R Us had no choice but to match them. Margin evaporated. Then, in 2005, came the decision that many analysts now call the final blow. A private equity consortium, Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, Bain Capital, and Vornado Realty Trust, took Toys R Us private in a leveraged buyout for $6.6 billion. That number matters. In a leveraged buyout, the buyers use debt, lots of it, and the acquired company is responsible for repaying it. When Toys R Us went private, it inherited $5.3 billion in debt almost overnight. Every year, they had to pay hundreds of millions in interest payments before they spent a single dollar on stores, staff, or technology. While Amazon was investing billions into fulfillment centers, Toys R Us was spending its cash paying interest. While Target was renovating stores and building a modern shopping experience, Toys R Us was running on a budget that could barely cover maintenance. By 2016, Toys R Us had approximately $400 million per year in debt obligations. They were spending more on interest than they were on improving the customer experience. Shoppers noticed. The stores felt like they hadn't been touched since 1994. Because in many cases, they hadn't been. And then came the death spiral that every failing retailer knows. Fewer customers, lower sales, less cash, worse stores, even fewer customers. In September 2017, Toys R Us filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. 6 months later, they announced they would close all 800 remaining U.S. stores. 33,000 employees lost their jobs. The pension fund was depleted, and Jeffrey the Giraffe, who had smiled down at American children for 27 years, was put up for auction. This is where most people point at Amazon and say, that's what killed them. And they're not entirely wrong. But they're not entirely right either. Amazon was a threat. But Amazon was a threat to every retailer. Best Buy survived. Target survived. Walmart didn't just survive, it thrived. The difference wasn't Amazon, the difference was debt and neglect. The private equity buyout saddled Toys R Us with a structural impossibility. You cannot invest in your future while your present is bleeding $400 million per year. And the Amazon contract of 2000 wasn't the cause of death. It was the moment they chose to stop building. When you outsource the future, you forget how to build it. 4 years of atrophy, 4 years of letting someone else handle the hard problem, and by the time they reclaimed control, the window had closed. There's a word for this in business strategy: capability erosion. When you stop doing something, stop building, stop innovating, stop competing, you don't just fall behind. You lose the muscle, the knowledge, the talent walks out the door, the systems decay. And when you finally need to run, you find you've forgotten how. The last Toys R Us in America wasn't killed by Amazon. It was killed by 10 years of not investing in itself while paying $400 million a year to bankers who never set foot inside a store. The lesson of Toys R Us isn't don't trust Amazon, it's simpler than that. When you outsource the hard problem, you outsource the future. And eventually, the future arrives, and you're not in it.